All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as you can see in the title, short for response, the tribe of Joseph and Dan took a back seat. And this is this is a based on a lesson that I did earlier today in Isaiah. I was breaking down Isaiah the 14th chapter, the second part, and within there I went into what was it, verse 13? Okay, dealing with the stars of God, proving that it was referring to the tribes, all right, or the Israelites. Um, so the sister had asked a question about it. I guess based on the way I worded it, she was asking about, let me just read it. It says, Shalom Bakar, what do you mean Joseph and Dan took a back seat? What happened? Could you put together a lesson, please? Or if you've already made one in the past about those two tribes, let me know. So basically, as I was uh, going through the chapter, I went to Revelation 12 to prove, okay, how the stars of, whenever it talks about the stars of God, in this case, that it's referring to the 12 tribes. And I had made mention that when you, let's actually read it and go through it and make more sense. So it says here, this is Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So now we know that this woman represents the nation of Israel, and the 12 stars represents the 12 tribes. And the proof for that is when you go to the book of Genesis, chapter 37, verse, let me see. Yeah, Genesis 37 and verse 9. It says, and he dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And this is Joseph. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? So as he was making reference to the sun and the moon and the 11 stars, as his father rebuked him, in the rebuke, he basically explains or makes reference to himself and Joseph's mother and his 11 brethren, representing those 11 stars, and Joseph being the 12th star. But I had said that Joseph and Dan took a back seat. All right, not in the sense of they're of little to no relevance, but when you go to the book of Revelation, the 7th chapter, as you read about the 12 tribes that are mentioned in here, the 144,000, 12,000 out of each tribe, it mentions Joseph in here, but specifically that's referring to Ephraim. Okay, so when you deal with the 12 tribes mentioned here, the tribe of Dan is not mentioned. Okay, but you have the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh are mentioned in here. Okay, now for Ephraim, like I said, it says Joseph, but this, when it says Joseph here, is referring to the tribe of Ephraim. Okay, so when I said they took a back seat, meaning Jacob had 12 sons, right? And Joseph was in there, Dan was in there, and the rest of the tribes, right? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Simeon, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Zebulon, all of them, right? Asher, all of them were in there. However, in process of time, as we're going to get the first account here in the book of Genesis, the 48th chapter, for Joseph's place came Manasseh and Ephraim. So they basically came and filled in that spot for Joseph. Okay. And that's when I said that, for example, Joseph took a back seat. That's what I meant, in that Manasseh and Ephraim basically came and took that place, which is why in the book of Revelation, the 7th chapter, out of the 12 tribes, it refers to the tribe. It mentions the tribe of Manasseh, and it also mentions the tribe of Ephraim, though it says the tribe of Joseph is really referring to the tribe of Ephraim. And also when it comes to Dan, Dan is not mentioned in there. Now, the scriptures don't really give an account for what happened to the tribe of Dan. There's been people that have apparently bugged out over that, about the tribe of Dan this, the tribe of Dan that, but that's really of no relevance right now. We'll find out in the kingdom what happened to Dan. Okay, but as of this point in time, they're not mentioned in Revelation 7. So that the 12 sons, when you go into Revelation 7, is not those same exact names, right? Because Manasseh and Ephraim fill in for Joseph, and Dan is not mentioned in there. Okay, so that's what I meant when I said the Revelation chapter 12 referring to the 12 stars, because you can say it's the 12 tribes, but when you go to Genesis 37 to prove it, somebody could say, well, here it talks about the 11 brethren and Joseph making it 12, but the 12 tribes, it doesn't, mention, for example, Ephraim and Manasseh were not a part of Joseph's brethren. So I mentioned that in there to sort of give that clarification. But let's get an account of what the scriptures do have a record of, which is dealing with Joseph, okay, and Ephraim and Manasseh. So this is Genesis 48:1. It says Israel's last days, referring to the last days before Israel or Jacob passed away. So it says, and it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Now keep in mind that Joseph, having been sold and found himself in Egypt, the Lord raised him up in Egypt, and he ended up marrying the daughter of, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Egyptian priests, which was Asenath or Aseneth. I forgot the exact pronunciation of it, but she was the daughter of one of the Egyptian priests. And that was the mother of Manasseh and Ephraim. So it says here, and one told Jacob and said, behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon his bed. So obviously in his last days, he was very weak, likely spent most of his time laying in bed. So when he heard that Joseph was coming with his sons, he mustered up the strength that he had to at least sit up upon his bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, behold, I will make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. See, so, and this was spiritual, because Jacob was basically claiming, right, Ephraim and Manasseh. And when you go fast forward into the future, you'll notice that when it talks about the tribes, it mentions the tribe of Ephraim or mention the tribe of Manasseh, but not necessarily the tribe of Joseph. And when it does mention the tribe of Joseph, most times it's interchangeable with the tribe of Ephraim. So verse 6, it says, and thy issue, meaning his children, which thou begettest after them, shall be thine. So he basically took Ephraim and Manasseh for his sons, and I'm talking about Jacob, and then said, okay, and if you have any more kids after that, those are yours, but these are mine. And shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet, and I believe this was, I think, during the birth of Benjamin, which she wanted to call him, I think is it, let me get it so I don't butcher it. Let's see. Benjamin, but I think it was a son of my sorrow or something along those lines. Yeah, so here they call it Benoni or Benoni, but that's not the Hebrew. The Hebrew, which is Genesis 35:18. So it says, let's see. So in the Hebrew, what Rachel wanted to call Benjamin was Bun Awanya. Okay, okay. Which is a son of my sorrow, which goes back to the two words you have Bun, which is son, and Awan, which is trouble or sorrow in this case. Okay, so Ban Awan Ya, the Ya at the end making it my trouble or my sorrow. So son of my sorrow, or something along those lines. And Joseph was not, Slakia, Jacob was not trying to hear that. He was not having that. So he said, instead, we'll call him Benjamin or Ban Yamyan, son of the right. And I think it was this was the point where Rachel died. So that's what Jacob is making reference to here as he's speaking to Joseph. So continuing, it says, verse 7, and as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come unto Ephrath, and I buried her there in the way of Ephrath. The same is Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons, and said, who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, these are my sons, whom God hath given me in this place. And he said, bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see, similar to Isaac. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel, so now I remember not long ago, right? Not long ago, um, there was a video that came out, right? And it was, I forget exactly where those brothers were, but they were GMS, of course, and they were teaching. And I think somebody came up and they were basically speaking to the individual about Yahushai, and he basically, the spirit jumped on him. So the brother gave him a kiss on the cheek, not on some like, wild, crazy stuff like this world would think. And you had this individual, I think he was from the ISUPK or some group, and he basically paused that clip, talking about, that's pause, or that's weird. So and I remember we did lessons on that. But here's an account, right, where Jacob kissed the sons of Joseph. Obviously, he wasn't kissing them on the lips, okay, but he kissed them, right? So what's that? Was that pause? We gotta go watch out for our forefather Jacob. We gotta do rebuke lessons on him. Anyway, it says, and embrace them. And that's because Jake don't understand the ancient customs, because they don't read and they don't study. Verse 11, and Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath shewed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. So you had Ephraim, Joseph was holding Ephraim with his right hand, and he was holding Manasseh with his left hand. But since Jacob was going to bless them, he basically pushed where does it say? Ephraim in his right hand towards Israel's left hand, right? So he basically directed Ephraim to go towards Jacob's left hand, and directed Manasseh to go towards Jacob's right hand. And I believe Manasseh was actually the elder out of the two. So it says, and brought them near unto him. And why did he do that? Because remember, Jacob's eyes were dim at this point. So it says, and Israel stretched out his hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger. Or he stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. So Joseph directed him one way, but Jacob still, he knew exactly what he was doing. Verse 15, and he blessed Joseph and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, and the Most High, which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, meaning the boys, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. So once again, Jacob is claiming um, Ephraim and Manasseh basically as sons of Israel. Okay, and that's why later on, when they refer to the children of Israel or the tribes of Israel, they mention Manasseh and Ephraim. Verse 17, it says, and so it's kind of like Joseph split into two, right? Like Joseph split into two, and that's where you get, Ephraim and Manasseh. It says, and when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head onto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And that's why ultimately Ephraim is the head tribe of the northern kingdom, and of course Judah, obviously Judah is the head tribe of them all. But when the kingdom split, you had Ephraim and Salak, you had northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? Or the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel, or sometimes even Ephraim. So it says, and he blessed them that day, saying, in thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said unto Joseph, behold, I die, but the Most High shall be with you, and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. And that's pretty much the account here in Genesis 48. So going back to the question at hand, and hopefully, it makes more sense now. When I said Joseph and Dan took a back seat, what I was referring to was in Joseph's stead. You'll notice that when you go past the book of Genesis and you start going into the Old Testament, into the New Testament, into the book of Revelation, there's less mention, really little to no mention of the tribe of Joseph, but more so the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Manasseh. So they basically came in there and replaced Joseph. And then obviously in process of time, you hear about the tribe of Dan in the book of Judges and a few other chapters after that and other books after that. But, he's not really mentioned in the book of Revelation as one of those tribes. Okay, so that's pretty much the point that I was making over there. And hopefully it's been cleared up. Hopefully, it makes sense now. And if you're still confused or you still have any follow-up questions, you can definitely, feel free to ask those or leave them on the comment board. But yeah, that was pretty much it on that part right there. So yeah, hopefully your question has been answered. Hopefully this is edifying unto the elect. And so with that, I'm going to end it here. Let me actually give it a second. I think the sister was on a comment board, so maybe she might be able to answer that. Okay, come. Hey, Barakatha, how about Shami Al Shai? So with that, Lord willing, once again, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.